again today. I've got another non-fiction book today. We're going to find out all about frogs. This book is called Tadpole to Frog. That gives us a little bit of a clue to some questions that I might ask you in a minute. Now remember, in a non-fiction book we have a page called the contents page, and it tells us all the different things that are going to be in our book, and it tells us which page number we can find them on. So the first one we're going to read on page 4 is all about what is a frog. Let's find out what a frog is. Here's the title of this page and the question, what is a frog? A frog is an amphibian. It's a tricky word to say, isn't it? Can you say that? Amphibian. Amphibian, that's right. It spends part of its life living in the water and part of its life on the land. Amphibians, like the frog, lay their eggs in water. They live in wet places, often near ponds or lakes. Some frogs live in wet rainforests. These are called tree frogs. Most tree frogs are much smaller than frogs that live on the ground. This tree frog has big red eyes. Can you see them? 2 big red eyes. And what colour are its feet? That's right, orange. It has orange feet and big red eyes. I wonder why it has those colours on it. Can you have a think? Let's see if you had a think and got it. It says this tree frog's big red eyes and orange feet are to scare other animals away. They wouldn't want to eat him, would they? Looking at his big red eyes and orange feet. Ooh, no, thank you. This page is all about the story of a frog. A young frog is called a tadpole. It looks quite different from a frog. Can you see? This is the egg that the frog lays in the water. That's right. And then it grows into a tadpole. A frog goes through 3 stages in its life. It spends all of the first 2 stages in water before it grows into a frog. Now this is a close-up picture of the eggs. This is called Frogspawn. Have you ever heard of that before? I wonder if any of you have ever seen frog spawn in a pond or a lake before. Looks just like this, like a little round ball of jelly with a little black dot inside, and that's the bit that grows into a tadpole. It says here many of the eggs are eaten by fish that live in the pond, but some of them survive and their tadpoles keep growing. After a few weeks, the eggs hatch. They hatch sooner in warmer water than they do in colder weather. Oh, here they are. Can you see what's coming off the side of the tadpole's head? It says tadpoles feed and grow. They grow faster when they live in warm water. The tadpoles are tiny when they hatch, but they grow quickly. Each tadpole has a long tail, which it uses to swim. It has feathery gills. That's what we spotted before, didn't we? Feathery gills on the side of its head, and these allow the tadpole to breathe while they're underwater. They can't come up to the surface yet because they've got no legs. Let's see what happens next. Here we go. Now this is called a life cycle. This is what I'm going to ask you to do for your challenge today. When they're about 7 weeks old, the tadpoles begin to change into frogs. So here's the tadpole, number 1. He grows his back legs first. Then he grows his front legs. And then as his tail begins to grow long, as its legs begin to grow longer, the tail gets shorter. So as its legs grow, it doesn't need its tail anymore. And the tail starts to disappear, and then it becomes a little froglet. Before it turns into a frog, it becomes a froglet. Their tails begin to shrink and their legs grow longer. Here's the little froglets, tiny little frogs. They keep growing and their tails disappear. The froglets stay in or near the water. They feed on small insects, which they catch with their long sticky tongues. Let's see who has the longest tongue. How far can you stick your tongue out? Let's have a try. 1, 2, 3. Was yours longer than mine? That's how they catch the flies. They shoot their tongue out of their mouth and curl around the fly and bring it back in. Very clever. When they are bigger, the froglets move away from their pond. This froglet is hiding in a pitcher plant in a wood. He's kind of camouflaged as well, isn't he? Because he's the same colour as the thing he's sitting on. There's the big long tongue that the frog has to catch. Looks like it's going for a woodlouse on that plant there. Can you see? Adult frogs spend most of their time on the land. They hide from animals that hunt them for food. Frogs rest during the day, and in the evening they go out hunting for insects. There's another frog camouflaged. He's brown, just like all the things that he's hiding under. All those branches. You can hardly see him, can you? Back to the pond. Frogs hibernate in winter. This is because there's little food for them to eat and the weather is a little bit cold. When animals hibernate, they fall into a deep sleep to save their energy. So they don't need to eat food because they're asleep. In the spring, the frogs return to the pond where they were born. This is where the adult frogs lay more eggs and the life cycle begins again. There we go. They've gone back to where they were born. Now, today I want you to have a go at making a life cycle of a frog. So just like we did last week with our life cycle of a butterfly, you need to get your piece of paper and you need to draw 4 circles. I drew around my cup again, and we need to put the numbers next to them. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we need to draw the pictures of the life cycle. So can anybody remember what happens first in the life cycle of a frog? What did we call these little jelly balls with a little black dot in the middle? Can you remember what they were? They were the eggs, weren't they? So I've written the word egg. This is how the frog starts. Then in number 2, what hatches out of the egg? Can anybody remember? It begins with a T. A tadpole, that's right. And can anybody remember which legs grow first? Is it their front or their back? I've drawn it on the picture to give you a little bit of a clue. It's their back legs, that's right. So he's still a tadpole, and at this point they're still black. Then number 3, they turn into a little baby frog called a froglet. Did you remember that word? And they still have their tail, so I've still drawn his little tail, but it's getting shorter as his legs grow longer. And then when he's grown a little bit more, number 4, he turns into an adult frog. That's right. And there he is. I've drawn my picture of a frog. So your challenge today is to draw your very own life cycle of a frog. I think you'll be able to do that reception. I had lots of fun drawing mine, and I hope you do too. Bye, reception.